part 2 of
When Dead Things
Talk. Give me a second.
Sorry.
Damn it, Len!
Okay.
Now, a lot of people are like, if it's that cold, you have to bring your animals in your house. Well, first off, if I had to live outside, going outside wouldn't be so cold, would it? It's only because I'm used to being in the house where it's heated that I get so cold when I have to go out in this shit. Bringing them in the house? Really? Because my dogs both have their own really nice, tight houses with lots of bedding. And do you know where they have been every morning when I've gone out to take care of them in this cold stuff? In my woodshed, which just has a roof, and the only block from the wind is the wood stacked in there. The cats have a door into my shop, and they have beds in there. Where are they 90% of the time when it's cold? Sleeping curled up in my leaf sweeper in the carport, which has no walls. My dogs are outside dogs. My cats are outside cats. They have always lived outside their whole lives. If you tried to bring them in the house, they would lose their minds and, well, then we'd all be out in the cold because we wouldn't have a house left. So, I was really cold and my pants were starting to freeze by the time I got to taking care of the chickens. I'm throwing out corn when I see out of the corner of my eye a big black sheep, which runs right at me, bleeding. I brace for impact, but of course it runs straight through me because it's the sheep I raised and butchered 2 years ago. And when he turns around to talk to me, boy, is he pissed. The sheep glares at me and says, "What the hell, man? You feed me? I run up to eat and y'all plug me? I never saw what hit me." Then the dead bastard ran right in through me again. Before he can run through me again, I try to plead my case. That was the point. You were happy right up till you were dead. No fear, no trip to the butcher shop, one quick shot behind the ear, and it was done. I even thanked you for feeding me. And by the way, you were super yummy, and I made a nice rug out of your hide that sits in front of the couch, so thank you. He looked confused, seeming to think about what I'd said, and then he put his head down and ran through me again, which was weird, but it didn't really hurt, and I told him so. He looked at me again. "But I didn't want to be dead. I wanted to breed with the dams and run around eating grass." Dude, have I got news for you. They cut your nuts off way before I bought you, and you were always going to get eaten, 'cause seriously, there is no reason to have more than one ram in a herd. You could have wound up on a feedlot somewhere. Instead, you got to live here. He looked between his legs to see if I was telling the truth, which of course I was. He looked at me with sad eyes and said, "Oh," and then he wandered away till he just vanished. However, Mr. Sprinkles, he wasn't as easy to talk to. You should never name something you are going to butcher. It's never easy to kill something you bottle-fed, petted, talked to, and took care of, but it's worse if you give them a name. But I didn't name Mr. Sprinkles. My grandson Zeb, who was 4 at the time, did. Now, I didn't whether. That means cut the balls off of, for all of you guys that don't know, Mr. Sprinkles, because I planned to butcher him way before he would be a problem. And because when you leave the balls on a billy goat, by the time you have to butcher him, he is already such a shithead, you're kind of glad to be done with him. Zed had been tired of playing with Mr. Sprinkles way before I butchered him, because he had a bad habit of butting Zeb right in the junk. Still, after I butchered the goat and he was in the freezer, Zeb asked me what happened to him. So I pushed the rug I'd made from his hide under the bed in the guest room, and being a huge chicken shit, I told him I sold him to another farm that needed a billy goat. Give me a break. Kids have to find out soon enough about how harsh reality is, and that's the parents' job, not the grandparents. I'm taking care of Casper, our new billy goat, who is an asshole but isn't mean. After the billy goat I had that was possessed, and I had to trick him into the cave and then bury him in a cave-in, I figured I deserved a billy goat that wasn't trying to kill me. Anyway, I'm feeding Casper when I look up and here comes Mr. Sprinkles, head down, running full tilt at me from halfway across the pasture. "Bonsai!" he screams. Don't ask me, I didn't know he was Japanese. I know from my encounter with the sheep that he couldn't hurt me, so I just stand there. He runs through me and is obviously pissed off, which he proves when he runs over and starts attempting to butt me in my knee over and over, bleeding out, "Die, die, 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 die!" I take a deep breath of frozen piss bucket cold. Damn, you guys have lived a sheltered life. Air. Look, little dude, I got no sleep last night. It's way too cold to deal with any amount of bullshit, and I'm sick to death of dead animals taking me to task for eating them. I was good to you. You had a good life, and then I ate you. "Eat, eat, eat, fat ass," Mr. Sprinkles accused. "That's all you do is eat. What about me? What about what I wanted?" Look, there's nothing more worthless than an extra billy goat on a farm unless it's extra roosters. Now, I don't have to eat meat. Frankly, I think humans are meant to be meat eaters, but there are millions of people who disagree with me. But think about this. If we weren't eating meat, none of you would have had any life at all. There'd be no reason for you. You know what my first mistake that day was? Trying to speak logic to a billy goat. Dead or otherwise, they flat never listen to reason. Mr. Sprinkles decided to just follow me around the whole time I was finishing up my chores. Which, here's a fun fact, the more horrible the weather is, the longer it takes to do anything with the animals. Thanks, God! It's cold, and I'm tromping through the snow, and this dead goat is just following me around, giving me attitude with a capital A. I pretend like I don't see or hear him, and ignore it when he runs through my body. Why? Because I remembered that animals, not unlike all other bullies, eventually get bored and go away if you just pretend like you don't care what they're doing. When I finished my chores and went in the house, I figured he'd stay outside. But no, just like those fucking roosters, he followed me right inside, where, not too surprisingly, it became obvious that Lynn couldn't see or hear the asshole. Now I know what you're thinking. That just proves I'm losing my ever-loving mind. But here's the thing. She didn't do the butchering, so why would these things haunt her? I decided to crawl under the house and go hang out in the cave with Fred, see if maybe he was seeing dead animals. But of course he wasn't, because as soon as I went in the cave, that billy goat just vanishes. I tell Fred what's going on up topside. "Where'd you put the bones?" he asks, as he sucks on a beer. "I put what was left of them in the compost bin, and the bones are mostly spread all over this property now, except the skulls. Why does that matter?" "Where'd you put the skulls?" "Well, the chicken skulls are all over the place, but the big skulls are hanging in my shop or in the worm bed getting cleaned." "Oh," he says, "justo." "What the hell does that mean, you ancient Spanish twit?" I hadn't had any sleep, and I was being haunted, and it was colder than shit outside, so I wasn't in the mood for any of his half-assed crap. He shrugged and said, "Oh, I don't know why you're being haunted." "Did you ever have even a foggy idea?" "Nope. I was just trying to make conversation." See what I have to deal with? Some gollop-looking, ought-to-be-dead guy living in the cave under my house who doesn't know anything helpful about the ghosts of animals long ago eaten haunting me, just sucking down my beer and using up my electricity. I didn't tell him off, though, because I was pretty sure the dead animals couldn't bother me in the cave. Why was I sure of that? Because there was no way that billy goat would have given up bugging the shit out of me that easy, because, hello, he's a billy goat. But of course I didn't get to sleep in the cave that night because we hit -9, and I had to keep feeding the wood stove to keep the pipes in our house from freezing. And you know, Lynn told me if I slept in the cave to get away from dead chickens and goats, she was going to call the Ha-Ha Hilton and have me picked up once and for all. I almost told her how stupid she was being, 'cause we're completely snowed in and ain't no one coming to get me right now. But I didn't. because I know better than push my luck in spite of what you might have heard. I banked the stove good, put on my warm pajamas and thermal socks and went to bed. I was warm for the first time in days. I was neither underground or being haunted by ghosts, and I hadn't had a good night's sleep in a few days, so I fell right to sleep. I slept maybe 2 hours when I heard a mouse screaming. I know that scream. It's the sound they make when they get stuck in a glue trap just before I take a boot and smash their head. In the morning, I'd stick him in the compost bin. Don't judge me. This is an old house, and we have a farm, which means anytime it gets the least bit cold, we have mice find their way into our house, and it was super cold. How cold was it? You ever hear that expression, colder than 2 sticks of shit? Ever wonder what that means? Well, this morning, when I went out to take care of the animals, the cats who lived in the shop had used the litter box because they weren't going out in the snow, and how would they dig a hole to shit in if they did? Anyway, when I went to clean the box, even in the shop, the turds had frozen solid. So it's literally colder than 2 sticks of shit. I still don't know what harder than 2 sticks of shit means. But I digress. I wasn't surprised I had caught a mouse and grabbed my boot to go and finish him off. But as I walked into the dining room, there were dozens of mice with glue boards stuck to their backs, running around and round the pool table. Really, would you rather have a dining table or a pool table? And don't pretend like you don't eat all your meals in the living room sitting in your recliner like I do. The mice are all screaming bloody murder, and when they see me, instead of running around the table, they start running around me. I look down, sigh, and say, fuck my life. I tried stepping on the fuckers, but that, of course, did nothing, which is just as well, because think about it. With my luck, my socks would have stuck to the glue traps. The mice would bite my feet, and I'd fall trying to get the socks off my feet, still yelling, fuck my life. My futile attempts to step on them went on till I had an idea. I put on a hat, jacket, and my boots, while these demented little shit mice continued to run around me screaming their death screams. By the way, their little heads were all smashed looking. One of them had his eye hanging on his cheek, and most of them had their eyes just bugged out. I walked outside and started calling my dog. No, not those stupid asshole dogs I have now, but my dead dog. Here, Spud, here, boy. Then I whistled. I didn't know whether it would work or not, and of course my living dog started to bark and raise hell. Shut up, assholes! I yelled, but they didn't shut up, because as someone was so kindly pointed out, when I yell at them, they just think I'm barking at them, which, well, that assumes that either one of them has an ounce of intelligence, which they don't. Here's Spud, here's boy. I try again. I whistle some more, and here comes Spud. And I can see him now. I don't even have to tell him what to do. He sees the mice and starts barking at and chasing them away, and they run from him because I'm guessing they're from the same realm or dimension or some shit. Spud comes back to me, panting, and I reach down to pet him. I can't feel him, but apparently it does something for him because he starts wagging his whole body. You want to go in, boy? I asked him. I'm not allowed in the house, he said, as if reminding me of my own rule. Well, not when you were alive, because you'd shed and drool everywhere and piss and shit all over the floor. But now you're dead, you won't make a mess at all. So I went back to bed with Spud curled up at the foot of my bed, and I slept because he kept the other dead shits away. I woke up that morning and Spud was gone. That made me a little sad. But I'd gotten some much-needed sleep, so when I bundled up to go into the Arctic wasteland of northwestern Arkansas, and that stupid-ass billy goat started hair-butting me and cussing me, I just took it in stride. Good morning, Mr. Sprinkles, I said, which seemed to really piss him off. When I walked in the shop, he walked right in with me, and was promptly joined by what I'm going to call the flock of dinners past. Just every duck, every rooster, every old hen I ever butchered, flogging and pecking me and making a racket so loud I couldn't hear myself think. It didn't hurt. but I tripped over one of my living cats that I couldn't see because of all the dead stuff and fell. I was super pissed, but remembered the night before. "Come here, Spud! Come here, boy!" And I whistled for him, and he came and chased the other dead things away. I pulled myself out of the floor and patted his head. "Thanks, boy." "You're welcome, so welcome. I love you." "I love you too, boy," I said, and that was when I noticed something. The goat, deer, and sheep skulls I'd had hanging in my shop, they were all missing. "I wonder why I haven't seen any deer yet," I asked, then knew why. See, I had butchered the deer, but I hadn't killed any of them. "Where'd all my skulls go?" I asked no one in particular. "In big hole," Spud said. "Show me the hole, boy." So I was on a mission to follow my dead dog to the hole where my skulls were when my phone rang. I take the phone out of my pocket, already pissed off about being pulled away from the task at hand. I keep petting my dead dog because I didn't want him to get bored and go back to wherever dead dogs go. I answered the phone with a gruff, "What?" Not bothering to even try to see who's calling because that would just cause me to waste even more time pretending that I can actually see the small screen on my flip phone. This is Shannon, Aunt Selena, are you all right?" And the tone of her voice tells me that what she really wants to ask is, "Auntie dear, have you finally gone completely round the bend?" "Did Lynn tell you to call?" "No, but she told Mother you think you're being haunted by dead animals you butchered." What she said got me to thinking about something, so I didn't answer right away. "Are you still there?" "Yeah, listen, I can't talk right now. I have to ask my dead dog a question." I turned my phone off so no one can call and bother me again. Now, normally, I don't take my phone with me to take care of the animals, but because of the cold and snow, Lynn insists I take it in case I fall outside, and honestly, what is she going to do if I do? It's not like she could pick my ass up and carry me in the house, so she mostly wants me to have it so I can call and tell her I've fallen and can't get up so that she can stick her head out the window, 'cause she ain't walking in the snow, and yell at me that I'm a dumbass as I die of hypothermia. Anyway, after I turned my phone off, I looked down at Spud. "I didn't kill you. The neighbor's stupid-ass pit bull did." That's right. The neighbor's dumbass kid decided to take the dog on a walk. Spud barked at him when they walked past our place. The dog got away from the kid, jumped over our fence, and killed my dog before I could do anything about it. I was so destroyed. I not only wanted to kill that damn dog, but the neighbor's kid too, 'cause the world has too many stupid people already. At the end of the day, the neighbor said he would make sure the dog never got beyond his fence again. I said if he did, I'd shoot that dog dead. The dog didn't, and well, now I guess I'm glad I didn't kill the bastard, because I'd hate to have that bastard haunting me too. But I digress. The thing I'd realized when my niece called to see if I was crazier than a shithouse rat was that Spud wasn't like the other animals I was being haunted by. And while, like I told you, I have a pet cemetery in the dog yard, and I'd lost other pets, none of them had put in an appearance. So I asked Spud, "Why are you haunting me?" "I'm not haunting, I'm helping," he said. "But how did you get here?" It was a good question. I certainly didn't have Spud's skull hanging in my shop, nor was he tilted into the garden or flower beds. He had been buried in a grave and covered with a concrete marker with his name on it. "I told you I loved this dog." "I never left," Spud explained. You just couldn't see me till you need my help because your new dogs are stupid assholes." I couldn't argue with any of that, and really, what would have been the point? "Where is that hole, boy?" He started walking and I followed. I started to follow him through the door into the chicken yard at the back of the shop and forgot to open it first, which had me face planting on the door. "Son of a bitch!" I yelled. Spud stuck his head back through the door. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean you, boy." I opened the door and followed him out. He walked across the chicken yard right to the very corner. I couldn't see any hole at all till I was nearly falling in the damn thing. You see, the rocks over it were such that with the amount of snow we'd had, it was almost completely covered. As I reached down to brush off the snow, I could feel a cold wind blowing up out of the hole. I knew what that meant. Another cave-in. This hole was connected to the cave system. And as we all know, that cave is magic. I started moving the rocks away, real careful-like, afraid of another cave-in. There was an entire stack of leaves and berries, and I knew what that meant. A pack rat had made a nest. I pulled Oz packing and food stash out and threw it to my living chickens. Under it were all my skulls, as well as dozens of chicken skulls, and my skeletons, some of them still stuck on glue boards. Why didn't the pack rat stick to the glue boards? Because you see, I have composting bins in my chicken yard, and I threw the mice into those bins. So by the time this pack rat was digging them up to hoard, the glue was covered in dirt. Pack rat wasn't home, which was too bad, because I would have liked to wring his freaking neck, or run him through with a spear. Come on! Every real farmer has a Viking spear they keep just for such occasions. I went and got a bucket and started picking up every single skull and bone. The bottom of the pack rat's lair was stuffed full of fiberglass insulation. The fucker had no doubt stole from the rafters of my milk room. I started pulling it out, and when I did, the airflow increased, so I stuffed it back in. I stuck a brick of rat poison down in the hole and covered it with a piece of tin and put rocks on top of it. I'll pour the damn hole completely full of cement and rebar as soon as the temps get above freezing. I start into the house with the bucket. Spud looks sad. What's wrong, boy? You don't need me, but want me, so I have to go. What? Are you friggin' Nanny McPhee? Of course I need you. My living dogs are still stupid assholes. He wagged his whole body, smiled, and followed me in the house. Right now, I'm burning those skulls in the wood stove. I'm kicked back in my recliner with Spud laying by my feet, and let me just tell you, dead is absolutely the best way to have an inside dog. The end. Until next time, thank you for watching.